Watch more programs like this on cable and stream with PCN Select. Subscribe at PCNTV.com.
Who's here to welcome the governor?
See you guys. How are you? Wow. Holy cow.
Okay.
Do it. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out today. It nearly brings tears to my eyes to be able to be here today to present the next governor of Pennsylvania. I don't need to tell many of you what is on the line, but what I can tell you is that we have an opportunity for two futures here in Pennsylvania. We have an opportunity for one future that is a future that involves bullying transgender children. It involves just doing so many difficult things for the state of our Pennsylvania. That's what Doug Mastriano wants to do. And Josh Shapiro represents the exact opposite of that, and that's what we need right now.
I am Cameron Shroy, the chair of the Franklin County Democratic Committee. And isn't it a great day to be a Democrat in Franklin? I'm a teacher at heart, so I gotta use my teacher voice for a second. I gotta say this, you know it better than I do. This election has a lot on the line.
Yes.
I just want to leave you off with this before I introduce our great county commissioner, Bob Zabrowski. This is Constitution Day. 235 years ago, our founding fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters started an experiment of democracy, gave birth to one of the greatest democratic republics in the entire world, the greatest nation on earth. I firmly believe that. Democracy was born in Pennsylvania. We will not let it die. Commonwealth has 67 beautiful counties, but one of them has a special place in my heart. That's Franklin County. I want you to meet our great Democratic Commissioner, Bob Zabrowski. He's doing so well.
Today I have the honor and distinct privilege of introducing to you Pennsylvania Attorney General and soon-to-be Governor Josh Shapiro. No doubt A.G. Shapiro will tell you what he plans to do as governor. I'm going to tell you, and why you should support him. I'm going to tell you why I think he's an extraordinary candidate. Josh grew up in Montgomery County outside Philadelphia. He earned his bachelor's degree at the University of Rochester, then moved to Washington and worked as an aide to a senator, and then chief of staff to a congressman. While working on the Hill, he completed his law degree at Georgetown. In 2004, he returned to Montgomery County and ran for a seat in the Pennsylvania legislature. He won in a district that had previously been held by a Republican. He became known in the House as a guy who could work across the aisle and get things done. He was reelected several times by overwhelming majorities. In 2011, he ran for Montgomery County Board of Commissioners. With his win, the board became Democratic for the first time in history. He chaired the board and was reelected in 2015. He ran for Attorney General in 2016 and won in Pennsylvania in spite of us losing the presidential election. He was re-elected in 2020 in the year the Democrats lost the state treasurer and auditor general vote. So let's review the history. He knows Congress, he knows the legislature, he knows counties, he knows the judicial system, and he's a progressive Democrat who wins in districts that used to be Republican. What better qualifications could we ask for than a candidate for governor? But his experience as Montgomery County Commissioner is the attribute that excites me the most. You see, in Pennsylvania, counties act as subcontractors to the state for human services. The hard stuff, the social safety net, mental health, drug and alcohol, children and youth, aging, the problems that never really go away, you just try to fix. And often the state mandates guidelines and underfunds the counties. So the commissioners are put in the unenviable position of cutting services or raising local property taxes. Having a former commissioner who ran a zero-based budget in Montgomery County who understands the fiscal challenges of county government is historically a first and of great benefit to county taxpayers. And I can tell you off the record, there are a lot of county commissioners in Pennsylvania, including a lot of Republicans, that are looking forward to Josh Shapiro as governor. So without further ado, let's have a warm Franklin County welcome for our next governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro.
Thank you, everybody. Man, some folks said, why you want to go to Franklin County? That's where the other guy's from. Let me tell you something. I'm glad I came. Y'all are making me feel at home here. Thank you. Thank you so much. We got some folks who couldn't fit in here. I want to say I appreciate y'all. I'm sorry there wasn't room, but when I got out of the truck, one of the women looked at me and she's like, you better win. Right? Let me tell you, that's what my wife says to me when I leave the house in the morning. Usually it's with a finger poking in my chest. And I get it, right? Like I get how folks are feeling right now. I get the worry, right? I get the worry about, from seniors worried that they're not going to be able to stay in their homes because of rising costs. I get the worry from moms and dads about the future of their kids. I get the worry, especially in rural communities, that our healthcare system is sort of fleeing and there's not going to be that access. And I also get the worry that people feel like these foundational rights that we've had for so long are being taken away. And I want you to know that I'm mindful of that. And I'm running for governor not just to win an election, but to try to meet this moment. To try to address the worry and to try and make sure I look out for all Pennsylvanians. No matter what you look like, where you're from, who you love or who you pray to. We need a governor who's going to look out for all 13 million Pennsylvanians. A governor who can seize this moment where I see great opportunity. And a governor who's going to defend our fundamental freedoms. And that is what I'm trying to do. And with your help, in 52 days, we will accomplish that together. We will. Let's talk a little bit about my vision, where I see great opportunity for Pennsylvania. Let me tell you something. I love the fact that there's some kids here. Afterwards, I'm going to ask you whether you wanted to come or Mom made you. But when I think about opportunity, I think about these kids. And Laura and I are blessed with 4 children of our own. I think in order to create opportunity in this Commonwealth, it starts by investing in public education. We not only have to fully fund our schools, we have to recognize that for too long we had some rural and urban schools that have been chronically underfunded. We got to fix that. But where I'm a little different maybe from some governors before is it's not just about writing the check. It's about what we do to help give our kids a real opportunity in the future. So let me tell you what my vision is. Let's get rid of standardized testing for our kids. Here's why. Not just because you're here and I don't want you to have to take tests, but truth be told, it's because it's not a good measurement of how well a kid learns or how well a teacher teaches. And in that space in the classroom, let's teach our kids music and art and history. And let's make sure that we recognize to create opportunity for young people, you got to show them pathways to opportunity. So when I'm governor, we're going to put vocational, technical, and computer training in our high school curriculum. I don't want some bureaucrat in Harrisburg deciding what your kid's going to do. I want your kid to decide what they're going to do with their future. I also want our children to be safe and healthy when they're in school. We got a lot of young people. I know this is a dad. We got a lot of young people who are struggling with mental health right now. So when I'm governor, we will fund a mental health counselor in every school building. That for our kids. That's how we create opportunity. We also got to make sure that when that kid goes to school, walk in, bus in, however they go, they got to have a safe environment to live in, safe streets to walk down. That's critically important. I know that as the Attorney General. We have got to make sure our communities all are safe. And when I'm governor, we will fund the hiring of 2,000 more police officers across Pennsylvania. Because folks have a right to both be safe and also feel safe in their community when they confront law enforcement. So they'll be properly trained and they'll be working together with the community to make sure we have safe streets to walk. Good schools, safe communities, and how about an economy that lifts everybody up? For too long, we've seen rural communities get ignored in Harrisburg. For too long, we've seen our ag sector not get the resources they need, all the capital fund for our farmers so they'll be able to expand their operations and do the work they need. We're going to connect everybody to the internet at high speed, affordable prices, because if you're connected to the internet, your small business has a shot. You'll get a good healthcare outcome. Our kids can learn better. We must connect to the internet. And we've got to work together to raise wages and protect the union way of life. When I'm governor, we will have a $15 an hour. I'll protect our unions in Pennsylvania. There's a lot of folks who want to take away the right to organize. I'll always defend the union way of life, especially our first responders, our professional. You heard this from your commissioner before. We need a governor who knows how to break the fever and bring folks together again, right? It's time to take off the red jerseys and the blue jerseys and wear the Pennsylvania jersey, where we can all come together, where we can all actually see our commonality and move forward with common purpose. To solve the pressing problems that we face, we got to build new coalitions. You know, one of the challenges in Franklin County, I mentioned this before, is a lack of affordable internet at high speeds. Yeah. Do you know that's also a problem in West Philly? Right? Communities look real different. Challenges are the same. It's time we bring people together to actually solve these problems.
It's a big problem in the rural area.
It is a big problem there. And to do so, we have got to have a governor who knows how to take on big fights and win. Now, I've done that as Attorney General. Just go ask some student loan companies we took to court. As a result of us taking on those for-profit colleges and those student loan companies, students and families in Pennsylvania got $200 million back in their pockets of student debt forgiveness. We've taken on the opioid companies. You know, as Attorney General, we arrested 8,200 drug dealers during my time in office. Yeah. Including right here in Franklin County. But listen, I understand that what's happening on the street corners, you can draw a direct line from there all the way back to the greed that existed in those pharmaceutical company boardrooms. That's why we took them on and won and brought over $1 billion back to Pennsylvania just for treatment, because we understand drug addiction is a disease, not a crime, and we got to treat it that way. We've taken on companies that ripped off workers. In fact, as Attorney General, I took on and won the largest prevailing wage theft case in the history of the United States of America. They stole over $21 million from Pennsylvania workers. We got all those workers their money back, by the way, the week before Christmas last, so they could buy presents for their kids and for their grandkids, and we criminally charged the company that ripped them off, and they pled. Taking on the fracking companies who poison our air and water and criminally charge them as well. The bottom line here is we need a governor who's fearless, who takes on those big fights. That's what I've always done. And I'm ready for this next big fight that happens in 52 days, and together we will defeat Doug Mastriano. why? Because this guy is the most dangerous, extreme person to not only ever run for governor in Pennsylvania, but by far the most dangerous extreme candidate running in the nation. Let's examine the record, right? He has said his number one priority isn't to cut costs, invest in your kids' education, save communities, grow the economy, connect to the internet. He hasn't said that's his number one priority. He has said his number one priority is to ban all abortion. That's what he said. And by the way, with no exceptions, not to save the life of the woman, or in the case, I'm sorry, Mom, of rape or incest. He wants to jail doctors who perform that healthcare procedure. That's his number one priority. Let me tell you something. I trust the women of Pennsylvania to make decisions over their own lives. This isn't theoretical. This legislature will put a bill on the desk of the next governor to do just that. He'll sign it. I'll veto it. I say my body, my choice. He says my body, my choice is ridiculous nonsense. Let's show him that we'll stand up against that. And listen, his extremism knows no bounds. Now, I wanted to come to Franklin County today to look you all in the eye and ask you for your vote, because I respect you. I respect the folks on the streets here, folks who agree with me, folks who disagree with me. I want to try and be a governor for all Pennsylvania. And at the same time, I'm here in Franklin County asking you for your support. Know where he's out trying to solicit support. He is out asking white supremacists to be part of his campaign. Seriously, he's the only candidate in the nation spending money on a website known as Gab, a haven for white supremacists, recruiting them to be part of his campaign. For those of you who don't know, that's the same website that was used by the person who went into the synagogue in Pittsburgh, murdered 11 people while they worshiped. That's where he's going for support. On the battlefield, a couple counties over here, in Adams County, a battle won by the Union, a battle where 6,000 Pennsylvanians perished to defend our nation and our freedom. He decided just a few years ago on the grounds of the U.S. Army War College not to wear the uniform of the Union, but to wear the uniform of the Confederacy, and not in some reenactment. This is the guy who decided to outwardly dress in the uniform of the traitors, dress in the uniform of those who went to battle here in this Commonwealth to defend slavery. This man is unfit to lead Pennsylvania. The reason why he recruits white supremacists, the reason why he wears the uniform of the traitors is because he believes certain people don't count. He believes certain voices shouldn't be heard. Don't take my word for it. Let's examine his record. In the last election, the former president and his enablers sued me over 40 times to try and stop your votes from being counted. By the way, I won every one of those lawsuits.
Right.
And understand, we had a free and fair, safe and secure election. We did. Right. Where some Republicans won and some Democrats won. Yeah. But understand the final step in the process of making sure your votes get tallied, get counted, happens not in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but in Washington, D.C., on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. And it happened on January 6, 2021. It was there that day that my opponent sided with the angry mob, marched to the Capitol, breached the police lines. And he did so with one purpose. All of them did. They didn't want your votes to count. They don't respect you. They don't respect the will of the people. Now listen, we don't have to look back on January 6th, though, to know what he wants to do in the future. He's told us. My wife says he likes to use his inside voice outside all the time. He told us he wants to use his power as governor. Use his power as governor, which he has. Because the governor appoints the Secretary of State, oversees elections. He has said he wants to use his power as governor to decertify certain voting machines in Pennsylvania. Why does he want to do that? So he gets to pick the winner. The only people who should be picking winners are the good people of Pennsylvania. It's fundamentally undemocratic. It's not who we are. We are the birthplace. We live in the birthplace of our democracy. Yeah, a few miles down the road, but still, here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, city of Philadelphia, this is where our democracy was born 246 years ago. And you heard this from the chairman before. I think we have a responsibility to make sure it continues. It's being threatened right now. But I choose to be hopeful in this moment of real challenge. And I'm hopeful because of all of you. Let me explain why. If you go and look at the story of our experiment in democracy, the American story has been written in chapter after chapter, where we've made progress as a nation. And then we got knocked back a step. But every chapter in the American story ends with us making forward progress. It always ends with us being more hopeful than we were when we came into that chapter. And those stories have been written not by people with titles next to their name, but by ordinary Americans rising up, demanding more, seeking out change, seeing something better that we want, and then reaching for it and going for it. That's been the story of our American democracy. But we're in the midst of another chapter right now. One where we did just get knocked back a step. One where, for the first time, the Supreme Court of the United States has taken away a fundamental freedom. One where we see our politics so frayed and divided, we begin to wonder whether or not we can even solve these big problems. One where there's a lack of respect for our institutions, where leaders are willing to lie and burn something down just to try to get ahead. But the reason I'm hopeful today is because of all of you, because you have the power to write this next chapter. And I know you, like me, believe in freedom. I know you, like me, believe in progress. And you've got the power to do this work. Freedom is on the line right now. And that will be a determining factor in how this chapter gets written. And you know, this other guy loves to talk a good game about freedom. You've seen it on his posters and his signs. You've heard him talk about it. Let me tell you something. Where I come from, freedom isn't telling women what they're allowed to do with their bodies. That's not freedom. It's not. Freedom isn't telling our children what books they're allowed to read. That's not freedom. Freedom isn't telling somebody you can go work a 40-hour work week, but you can't do it as a member of a union. That's not freedom. Freedom isn't telling someone, yeah, I know you love that person, but you're not allowed to marry them here. That's not freedom. And freedom isn't letting you go vote, but him getting to pick the winner. That's not freedom. We all believe in real freedom. And real freedom comes when you invest in that young child and give them a chance. When you make sure they live in a safe community so that they can grow up and learn how to be a welder in high school because we put VOTEC in the classroom. And take that welding certificate they got from a union apprenticeship program and go out and start a small business right here in Franklin County. And then, to be able to do that work, they're going to hire more employees. And they're going to let them get a job they might have never had. That's real freedom. They're going to be able to provide for their family. They're going to live in a community where they're respected, where they can worship where they want and marry who they love and know that their freedoms and rights are going to be protected. That is real freedom. And that's what we're fighting for. And that's what this election is all about. Look, my name may be on the ballot, but it's your rights and your future and our freedom that's on the line. And we got to do this work right now, together. You have the power to both win an election and write this next chapter in our American democracy. Don't leave here today thinking that you just vote and that's the end of it. Leave here today realizing you've got a vote and you've got a voice. Real power. Real power. Let me tell you, here in Franklin County, you know what real power is? Don't worry, I'm not stealing your sign. This is real power.
Yes.
It is. Because listen, I know it's not easy to put one of these up on your yard around here. And when you leave here today, when you leave here today, take one of them. Actually, take two. They'll steal one, so you need help. Take two signs. And know that when you put that on your yard, you're sending a message to that person who lives quietly in your neighborhood, who kind of feels the way we do, but didn't realize they had company. Show people they have company here.
Yes.
Here's another way you have power, in your voice. Have a quiet conversation when you're leaving church, at the checkout counter, the bingo hall, wherever you are. You lean over to your neighbor and you tell them what's at stake and why you're voting the way you are. That's going to make a difference. Folks are going to get sick and tired of seeing this on TV, but they're never going to get sick and tired of hearing from their friends in their neighborhood, at their church. Tell them what you believe and what you feel. Use your voice. Put up a sign. Cast your vote. You got real power. And I believe this is a moment where we're all being called upon to use it. The stakes could not be higher, and the contrast could not be clearer. This is the last thing I want to say to you. I'm asked a lot, why did you dedicate yourself to a life of public service? Why are you running for governor? And the truth is, I do this work because of my family and because of my faith. I want to tell you about that. Lori and I are blessed with 4 kids, Sophia, Jonah, Max, and Ruth. And I look in their eyes every day, and I worry about their futures. I worry about the planet we're leaving. I worry about their safety. I worry as a parent, you'll understand this too, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas. I worry that we brought our children into this world at a time where maybe they had fewer opportunities than the world I was blessed to be brought into 49 years ago. And I want to do something about that for them. I want to do something about it for your kids too. The second reason I do what I do is because of my faith. Now let me be clear, I'm not here to preach at you, to tell you what to believe, or to believe it all. But I want you to know what my faith teaches me. My faith teaches me that no one is required to complete the task, but neither are we free to refrain from it. Meaning each of us has a responsibility to get off the sidelines, get in the game, and do our part. Do our part. Do our part. So yeah, I'm here in Franklin County because you matter. And because you also respectfully have a responsibility to get off the sidelines and get in the game. Because you're going to be difference makers, not just in an election, but in writing this next chapter in our American democracy, in protecting our fundamental freedoms, in making sure we create opportunity for all of God's children. This is a moment where we all have to do our part. And if you give me your hard work over these next 52 days, from the signs to the calls to the texts to those quiet conversations, if you give me that and give me the honor to serve as your next governor, boy, oh boy, I will then bust my hump for you for the next 4 years. Thank you all very, very much. Let's get to work, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Can you hang on that?
So yesterday, Doug Mastriano was in Chambersburg, held his rally, was talking what he talks. Didn't really give anything on education.
Talking what he talks, is that?
Campaigning.
I'm teasing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So tell me, You're coming here the day after, obviously a good turnout. How's it make you feel?
Well, it feels great. I feel real at home here. And I've made very clear, we're going to compete everywhere. Look everybody in the eye and ask them for their vote. It's one of the reasons why I was successful at winning in 2016 and 2020. We take no vote for granted. We treat everyone with respect, and we show up. And I'm here in this community to say that I'll be a governor for all Pennsylvanians, not just some.
And I know, one of the things that we talked about, he said, Pennsylvania, we're seeing more crime, 12th in the nation, 8th in the nation in opioid overdose deaths. And he said that kind of falls onto the Attorney General. I want you to comment on that.
As Attorney General, we've arrested over 8,200 drug dealers, over 1,000 gun traffickers, hundreds of child predators. I've arrested more than 100 Republican and Democrats for public corruption. We have stood tall when it comes to combating crime. It's one of the reasons why local police support me and have endorsed my candidacy, because they recognize I'm someone who respects law and order, unlike my opponent who has disdain for law and order. We have a plan to make our communities even safer. I'm the only candidate who's talked about that. We will fund the appointment of 2,000 more police officers all across Pennsylvania. People have a right to both be safe and feel safe in our communities, and that's what I'll do as governor. Go ahead.
What's your plan to improve schools and boost the economy?
Well, we need to invest in our schools. It's first thing I talked about here today. We need to fully fund all of our schools. We've seen for too long rural and urban schools be chronically underfunded. But I'll be a governor that doesn't want to just invest in the schools to write the check, but actually to bring about meaningful change that creates more opportunity for young people like them who are standing behind the camera. So we'll make sure that in funding our schools, we actually give our kids a chance to learn effectively. We'll do away with standardized testing. We'll bring VOTEC into our high school classrooms to create opportunities and pathways to success. We will fund a mental health counselor in every single school building because our kids are struggling right now and need help. So we've got to invest in education if we want to create opportunities tomorrow.
And when Trump was in PA, he criticized you for violence in Philadelphia. How will you make communities safe?
Look, I don't listen to much of what Trump says. I beat him in court over 40 times when they tried to take away your right to vote or when they tried to restrict your freedoms. The bottom line is this is a race between me and my extreme and dangerous opponent, Doug Mastriano, and I'm grateful for the support we're getting from Republicans, Democrats, and independents. We had 20 Republican officials in the last month or so endorse my candidacy. They recognize I'm someone they can trust to bring people together and get things done. This is not a time for hyperpartisanship that the former president and my opponent want to bring. This is a time to have people come together to get things done. Sorry, I keep hitting your arm. I'm sorry.
Josh, do you find it hard to focus on sort of the grist of a gubernatorial campaign when you have an opponent who is motivating Democrats simply to come out to, as they see it, to save their democracy and abortion rights? I mean, we don't talk much about the budget. We don't talk much about kind of the business underneath the dome.
Well, look, I'm focused like a laser beam on making Pennsylvanians' lives better. That's why I put out a concrete plan on how to cut costs. That's why I talk about investing in education, what we would do there, for example, to put a mental health counselor and VOTEC in our classrooms. I put out a plan on how we can hire 2,000 more police officers to ensure that we have safe communities, on how we can connect people to the internet, on how we can triple our investment in apprenticeship programs to help people get to work. And those are just a few of the examples of the things that we're going to try and push forth and work with the legislature, Republican and Democrat, to get these things done.
Michelle. News Talk 137 FM.
Hi.
Your predecessor, if you would win the race, he has done a lot with executive orders that people have been critical of because he went around the legislature on Reggie, unlike all the other states who are involved in it. He just passed an executive order forbidding conversion therapy, which is really only understood for same-sex, not for gender. And I've heard from therapists who say they're afraid now to talk to gender-confused kids about anything except pushing them forward with affirmative care. If you become governor, would you relook at some of those, especially that latter one, and what's your feeling on ruling by executive order?
Well, look, I think, quite frankly, and with all due respect, some of the stuff you're saying on conversion therapy is just downright ignorant.
I'm a medical doctor.
And these attacks.
Thank you, Josh.
These attacks.
That's your right.
I'm happy to answer your question if you let me answer it. That's okay. And these attacks on our children by a guy who wants to be governor demonstrates yet again just how unfit he is to be governor if he's going to go out and attack our children. The bottom line is, if you're asking about executive orders, I'll be a governor that tries to bring Republicans and Democrats together to get things done. We'll get the legislative process working again. I understand how to do that, both on my experience and on my mentality and approach, and I recognize that I need to be a governor for all Pennsylvanians, Republicans and Democrats alike.
Thank you, Josh.
CBS, here we go.
What's your reaction to a report that says Mastriano was a registered voter?
I just can't hear you, I'm sorry.
What's your reaction to a report that says Mastriano was a registered voter in Jersey?
Well, I guess there's a lot of New Jersey talk in these elections. I think he needs to explain why he was registered there. I don't know.
Yeah, another one? Yeah, sorry, my phone just went off.
Did you ask him that question, or did he not want to take your questions, I guess? Yeah.
I just texted questions to ask.
Go ahead. No problem. No problem.
And,
You don't like the media, right?
he attacked the fact that you went to a Jewish day school. Do you know anything about that? What's your reaction to that?
Look, I'm proud of my faith-based education. I'm also a proud defender and supporter of our public school system. The idea that he's out attacking children, including my children, but all children, because their parents want to make sure that they have an education that's grounded in faith. The fact that he's out, speaking in these anti-Semitic, and racist, and homophobic tropes every single day demonstrates that he don't want to be a governor for all Pennsylvanians. I want to tell you something. I don't get offended when he attacks me. This is not about me. This is about making sure that all Pennsylvanians feel protected by their state government and by their governor. That all Pennsylvanians are respected no matter what they look like, where they come from, who they love or who they pray to. And yet time and time again, this guy campaigns with white supremacists, with extremists, courts their support, and demonstrates a real hatred toward a whole lot of Pennsylvanians. And I think that makes him unfit to be our governor.
Charlie Thompson.
Josh,
I'm sorry.
at your last stop, you answered that you would at least conceptually support a bill that offers lifeline scholarships. And I just wanted to ask you to clarify on that. As you support that, would that be in addition to the EITC program that already receives the several $100 million of funding every year, or would that be in place of the EITC?
Sure. Well, the answer I gave you was about the concept, because there are flaws with the bill, to be sure. Here's the bottom line. We need to fully fund public education. On top of fully funding it, we do need to make sure parents have the ability to put their kids in the school that's best for them. And then for those kids who are struggling with poverty, if we can attach additional resources for them to have tutors, computers, books, the things that they need for help, whether in a rural community or in an urban community, I think that's something that we need to work on together.
Okay. So, and I did want to ask you, since the question came up here, and there's been a fair number of questions about education today, I mean, you are seen as the, you've made no bones about your strong support of public education.
Sure.
And would you care to address, just for the record, for those that don't know, in your own family, you chose to send your kids to a faith-based school. Why did you make that choice for your family?
You know, I think I spoke about, I think you were inside, Charlie. I spoke about my family and my faith being central to my service. I've made no secret about the fact that I try and be home, I am home every Friday night to have our Sabbath dinner together. I've made no bones about the fact that my faith grounds me. I've also made no bones about the fact that I respect people of all faiths, and I never want to impose my faith on anyone else, quite unlike my opponent, who wants to dictate to folks where and how they should worship and on what terms. For me, and for our children, providing them that faith-based background was critically important. Now, as a public official, check my record, I have always supported, invested in, and spoken about the need to fully fund public education, to invest to make sure every single kid gets that opportunity, and to make sure that it is we are meeting our constitutional obligation. I filed a brief as the Attorney General with the court, with Judge Cohn-Jubileer, about 2 months ago. Happy to get you the brief, saying that our current funding for public education is unconstitutional. We're not meeting our obligation. So yeah, I believe in making sure that, you know, my children had that faith-based education, but I also believe in making sure every single child in Pennsylvania gets a quality education and that we fully invest in our public schools.
And we're going to go here to Shippensburg.
Hey.
SVTV, you've mentioned more than once about how you want to bring people from both sides of the aisle together. Can you offer any specifics on how you might plan to do that?
Look, I've got a long track record of bringing Republicans and Democrats together to get things done. I did that when I served in the legislature. I've also brought, you know, different sides together when we had really challenging moments. I'll give you two examples. Highmark and UPMC, who are the two biggest insurers in Western Pennsylvania. They had been battling for a decade, and they were days away from cutting 2 million Pennsylvanians off of their health care. We stepped in, and after years of work, we were able to secure an agreement that protected access to health care for 2 million Pennsylvanians. In the wake of the killing of George Floyd, people wanted to see change in our criminal justice system. I brought together law enforcement leaders from across the state, the Legislative Black Caucus, other reform advocates, to be the first state in the nation with a divided government after the killing of George Floyd to create a police misconduct database in Pennsylvania so communities would know who's policing them. Those are examples where we've been able to handle tough challenges by bringing sides together and getting things done. It's critically important that we have someone who can go to Harrisburg and repair the wounds and bring people together. My opponent is someone who only wants to divide us. He's very clear if you know, you don't think the way he does on marriage, if you don't think the way he does on climate change, if you don't think the way he does when it comes to reproductive freedoms, then you don't count. You don't get a voice in the system. I'm someone who recognizes that, God willing, the day after I get elected, I'll be a governor for all 13 million Pennsylvanians, not just those who voted for me.
And then we'll go to CBS 21 for the last one.
Real quick, if you had a word for anybody who's on the fence about even just voting in general from November, what would it be and why?
Your vote's your power. And your vote as a Pennsylvanian, as an American, is what allows our democracy to continue. Our democracy is on the ballot. Our freedoms are on the line right now. And the people with the power here aren't folks with titles next to their names, but the people who get to go in and cast their ballot. And they need to know that this will be, like the last election, a free and fair, safe and secure election. And whatever happens, I will respect the will of the people of Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.